Hey, Reimage Church, Pastor Chris here. Want to take a moment and answer a question that is on all of our minds right now. That is, when are we going to gather together again in person for worship services? And I know this is a question that all of us are asking, but as I was preparing to answer that question today, I thought back to the last Sunday in March when we had our last in person worship services. And I just reflected and thought, how many of us really appreciated the moment that next week we wouldn't see the people who sit next to us every single Sunday, that the people that when we arrive about the same time are getting coffee about the same time we are, the people that we sing with and we notice, wow, they really can't sing, or wow, they sing really well. Maybe they should be singing with the team on the stage, or just as those moments, they're so special. And so often when we have liberties, we have freedoms, we have experiences on a regular basis, we can take them for granted, but we're not taking them for granted now. And so we're asking the question, hey, when can we do that again? And so I want to tell you that this has been a difficult question to answer. We've really prayed about it, and our staff, we've worked really hard to say, okay, if when we come back together to meet, based off of what we've been through with COVID-19, what are the questions we need to answer? Number one, we have to answer questions of logistics. How will we move people in? How will we move people out? What will we do about childcare? How will we keep the building clean? Will we ask people to wear masks? Will we not ask people to wear masks? What will we do? And so there's been a lot of things that we've considered. And in fact, even as it's a very fluid situation, data changes, situations change. We're not allowed to meet. We are allowed to meet. There's guidelines that have been issued that we've been asked to follow. And so we've taken all that into consideration. And actually, earlier this week, we had kind of crafted one plan, and we wanted to hear information from our state officials and our governor on Wednesday that would kind of just give us a little bit more direction about what our phase is doing. And I want to tell you, there's a few things that stuck out to me about the announcement this week. Number one was just the expression of the governor and the director of Health and Human Services as they kind of outlined that our metrics are not where we'd really hope they would be right now. Number two, the fact that they did allow our state to move into phase two, but they modified it so that there would be a few more restrictions based on where the data has taken them. And I really, just as I was watching, and I just didn't have peace about the plan that we were creating, so I gathered our staff back together and we talked about, what can we do? Like physically, what are our capabilities? As we've been talking to different volunteers and key people and just trying to see how we could make what our first plan was work. What are they saying to us? What are their reactions to our plan? And then thirdly, how do we express that we're not just trying to open the doors to open the doors. We want to express care through this process. We want to make sure you know that you are important to us. And even though we miss gathering together, we only want to once again open our doors and come back together if we can do it with the most safety, with the most care. And so we've taken all that into consideration, and we've laid out a plan in 3 steps. Now, we're using the word steps because our government is using the word phase, and we don't want there to be confusion between, well, the government said we're in phase 2 or the government said we're in phase 3. And so we've laid out these 3 steps. And the first step is going to begin not this coming Sunday, but next Sunday on May 31st. Now, that's going to be a special Sunday because it is Pentecost Sunday. And so I have a special message prepared that actually God's just been turning in me for about 2 months now as we've prepared for this date. But on May 31st, we're going to go to online services that are actually live. So you may not have known this, but up until now, our services don't actually happen at 10 a.m. We pre-record them and we broadcast them during our church service. And we believe that having that service happen at the time that people are watching will actually kind of create a greater unity of heart and unity of spirit with us. Now, many of you are saying, well, I really just want to come back to church. I want to gather together. Well, based off of the guidelines that our state health department has issued, you can gather together with 10 people. And so we want to encourage you, if that's something that is on your heart and that you miss, call up a couple of friends, have them over to your house, watch the service together, worship together. And don't say, well, just because we can't go to our church building, we are not going to gather together to worship Jesus. And so if you are looking for some people to do that with, maybe who are part of your church family, I would encourage you this week, watch the service on Facebook, ask around, anybody want to gather next week, and just come together and lift the name of Jesus high. Now, our office during this time is going to be open on Mondays and Tuesdays, and that's kind of what step one is going to encompass, and that's going to go for a few weeks. Now, our state has just entered phase two, and they're saying that's going to last for 5 weeks. So we're going to continue to monitor, and we would like to be able to move to live services, or what we're going to call our step two, Father's Day. Now, that's not a date set in stone, so you can pencil it in on your calendar, but we're going to have to monitor where our state is, because we don't know what will happen as people move about more and more. But once again, we'll monitor it with the same heart that we've been working to create this plan. When we move into step two, we're going to have two services. One at 9 o'clock, one at 10:45. And those services will last about an hour. And our host team will be trained to help you find seating. We will seat you. We will help you maintain social distancing. And we'll have a system where you can say, hey, this is the service I want to go to, so that we can be best prepared for the people that will come. During that time, we will open up childcare for birth to through K-5 for the second service only. And so if you have kids and you'd like to come, kids first grade through fifth grade will be with their parents in the sanctuary. And so we look forward to being able to have services starting on Father's Day. During that time, we will also open our office for an extra day a week on Monday or on Wednesday or Thursday, just based off of logistically how our production schedules are running for the week. And from there, we don't have a timeline, but we know in step three, we'll be looking at either combining the two services, or maybe we'll keep both services and expanding our child care for that. At that time, we should be able to relax some of the social distancing requirements that will make that a little bit easier. And who knows, maybe in step three, we'll be allowed to give each other high fives. And so that would be great as well. Our office will then resume normal hours, and we'll begin to open up some of our other programming that we have. But by that time, we expect we will be in late June, early July, as we prepare for the fall trimester, when we begin to turn our focus on reaching our community again. And just continue to be in prayer that God will continue to work in our community throughout this crisis. Now, I just want to leave you with one note as your pastor, to just say that we love you. We've been praying for you. And we really are hopeful that as we move into this season, we can do it as a church that is unified. One of the things we've seen during this time in our country is that anytime there is a division, or anytime there is a separation, the enemy will try and come in. And that's why Ephesians tells us to leave no space for the devil. And so our hearts are to be together in person. But right now, that's either being limited, or it has to take a different form. But I want to encourage you. You've heard so much that the church is not the building, the church is the people. And so much in our culture, we focused on church being that meeting in a building. I was reading through the book of Acts this morning, and it talked about how they did go to the temple daily, but then they met in each other's houses, and that they were going out and they were doing good. And being the church is not about a service. We should never be trying to limit God. And that's why at the end of so many of our services, you'll hear us say, this is not church. We are the church. Now go be a church to a lost and dying world. I hope that you'll think through that and think, okay, well, if the building, if the service, if that's not church, if I am the church, how can I today be the church to a lost and dying world? I love you, Reimage. We'll see you soon.